The question echoes across the South China Sea. If Chinese warships attack a Philippine vessel, will the United States intervene? This isn't just theory. It's the most critical strategic question for the Philippines today. The answer shapes Philippine sovereignty, Southeast Asian stability, and the credibility of America's alliances in the Indo-Pacific. For years, the U.S. kept its intentions vague, offering ironclad commitments but avoiding specifics. But as Beijing grows bolder, ambiguity now breeds anxiety in Manila. Filipinos want clarity. Is the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty a real security guarantee or just a relic? The South China Sea is a flashpoint, with the Philippines caught between a rising China and the established US-led order. Every incident, every water cannon, every close call, brings the region closer to conflict. This video will break down the US-Philippine alliance, the treaty's promises, and the debate over whether to double down on America or seek a new path. The stakes have never been higher. To grasp the Mutual Defense Treaty, you need to understand the US-Philippine relationship, born from conquest, not equality. The US seized the Philippines from Spain, then fought Filipino nationalists seeking independence. American colonization left a legacy of shared institutions and lingering resentment. World War II changed everything. Fighting side by side against Japan forged a powerful bond. Independence came in 1946, but with strings attached. America kept its military foothold as the Cold War began. The 1951 treaty was part of the U.S. strategy to contain communism, securing bases like Clark and Subic. For the Philippines, the treaty offered security and military aid, but also deepened dependence on its former colonizer. Critics argued it compromised sovereignty and entangled the country in superpower rivalries. This mix of colonial history, wartime brotherhood, and Cold War pragmatism still shapes the alliance today. The past is never far from the present. The treaty's legacy is both shield and shackle. The Mutual Defense Treaty is just 8 articles, but its impact is profound. The first 2 articles pledge peaceful dispute resolution and cooperation on democracy and development. Article 3 is key. Both nations must build their own defense capabilities, hence U.S. military aid and joint exercises. Article 4 is the heart. An armed attack in the Pacific obligates both to act, but in accordance with constitutional processes, meaning U.S. intervention isn't automatic. Article 5 defines armed attack, which we'll explore next. The rest cover UN obligations, indefinite duration, and ratification. The treaty is a solemn pact. Mutual defense but with flexibility. It's not a blank check, it's a framework for cooperation and deterrence. The language is deliberately open-ended, leaving room for interpretation. This flexibility is both a strength and a source of anxiety. The real test is how it's applied in a crisis. Let's look at what armed attack really means. The treaty's power hinges on 2 words: armed attack. Article 5 says this includes attacks on either country's territory, forces, or vessels in the Pacific, but the language predates today's gray zone tactics, like maritime militias and water cannons. For years it was unclear if the treaty covered disputed South China Sea features. Recently, U.S. officials have clarified, attacks on Philippine forces or vessels anywhere in the South China Sea would trigger the treaty. This draws a red line for China, extending the U.S. security umbrella over contested waters. But ambiguity remains. What about blockades or non-lethal force? China exploits this gray area, operating below the threshold of open war. The definition of armed attack is evolving, and so is the risk. The line between provocation and war is razor thin. Having a treaty is one thing, enforcing it is another. Skeptics in the Philippines fear the U.S. might hesitate, especially with Congress needing to approve military action. They worry the treaty is a paper tiger, leaving the Philippines exposed if America balks at risking war with China. History offers reasons for doubt. U.S. intervention isn't guaranteed, and the stakes of war with China are enormous. Yet, abandoning the Philippines would devastate U.S. credibility, not just in Asia, but worldwide. America's power rests on its alliances. Failure to defend Manila could unravel the entire security order. The U.S. must weigh the risks of action against the costs of inaction: loss of credibility, regional instability, and unchecked Chinese power. Recent U.S. statements reaffirming the ironclad commitment are meant to deter China and reassure allies. The treaty's credibility depends on America's willingness to act when it matters most. The world is watching. The next crisis will be the ultimate test. The South China Sea is where the treaty's promises are tested. China's sweeping claims overlap with the Philippines' legal waters, despite a 2016 international ruling in Manila's favor. Beijing has built islands, deployed ships, and harassed Filipino vessels, ignoring international law. The MDT is Manila's main leverage. Without it, China's military edge would be overwhelming. The treaty deters outright war, forcing China to rely on gray zone tactics instead of open aggression. Flashpoints like Ayungin Shoal and Scarborough Shoal are constant sources of tension. The US presence, through agreements like EDCA, allows rapid response and joint exercises, signaling resolve. Yet, memories of past US inaction, like at Scarborough in 2012, fuel doubts in Manila. The alliance is more than a document, it's a living partnership, evolving with each crisis. US forces now rotate through Philippine bases and joint patrols are more frequent. The treaty's value is measured in deterrence, and in the confidence it gives the Philippines to stand up to China. But every standoff is a test of American resolve. The stakes are real, and the risks are rising. The Philippines faces a strategic crossroads. One camp, led by President Marcos Jr., wants to deepen the US alliance, seeing it as essential against China's aggression. They push for more joint patrols, military modernization, and closer integration. For them, the treaty is a shield, not a relic. Nationalists, however, see the treaty as a threat to independence, risking entanglement in a US-China conflict. They argue for a more balanced foreign policy, or even scrapping the treaty altogether. The debate is fierce. Is the MDT a shield or a magnet for conflict? US military presence reassures some but alarms others who fear the Philippines could become a battleground. The choice is stark. Trust in a 70-year-old alliance, seek neutrality, or build new partnerships in Asia. As tensions simmer, the question remains, if war comes, will America truly fight for the Philippines? What do you think? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more analysis on global security.